says, it's funny how seeing or hearing about one thing can make us think about another thing. That's what happened to Lloyd Smith when he saw a story on the TV news one night a few weeks ago. The story was about a historical photograph, but it made him think about one of his relatives. In Project 4, How to Say It, from the Competent Communication Manual, he will discuss what that person's experiences have to teach all of us. So, Lloyd Smith is introducing Uncle Adam.
The news story was about a picture that I'll bet all of you have seen. You know that famous picture of the Marines, those 7 Marines putting up the American flag on Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima, you know, some guys going like that and the other guys are pushing up. That was the picture. It turns out that one of the 7 Marines, supposedly in that picture, wasn't even there. One of the guys who put the flag up was a totally different guy. Well, it's a minor historical footnote, I guess. But when I heard the story, I thought about my Uncle Adam. Now, he didn't have anything to do with putting the flag up on Iwo Jima, but he was there as a Marine fighting the battle. And I think his story has a lot to teach all of us. Uncle Adam was a 15-year-old orphan living in St. Paul, Minnesota in the fall of 1944. Back then, orphanages were pretty grim places. And so one day when he was walking home from school, he stopped in the Marine recruiter's office to try to join. Now, the minimum age for joining the military back then was 17. And Adam was big for his age, and the Marines really needed more manpower because they were suffering major losses in the South Pacific fighting the Japanese. So the recruiter helped him fake the documentation, and he became a Marine at age 15. 2 days later, he left to apparently go to school, and he walked to the train station, got on the train, went to San Diego, did his Marine basic training at Camp Pendleton. 6 weeks later, basic training was really short because they needed guys for the fighting. He was on a troop ship heading for a little island he had never heard of called Iwo Jima. Now, the island of Iwo Jima is about 750 miles south of Tokyo, but it's considered one of the Japanese home islands. And the Japanese were sworn to fight to the death for their home islands. It also had 2 airstrips on it that were served and guarded by about 20,000 Japanese troops. The airstrips were used by the Japanese to launch fighter planes to attack the American bombers that were slowly pulverizing Japan at the time. So it was strategically important to take that island. On the morning of February 19, 1945, my Uncle Adam woke up to 2 important things. One of them was it was his 16th birthday. Now think about what you were doing on your 16th birthday, okay? What he was doing was the second important thing. He was crouched in the bow of a Navy landing craft in the first wave of Marines to attack Iwo Jima. Think about that, 16-year-old kid celebrating his birthday by running ashore in an amphibious attack. Well, when they got to the beach, they got a bad surprise. The beach was really steep and it was made out of crumbly volcanic soil. Thousands of Marines stacked up on the beach trying to get up on it when the Japanese started shooting at them. Uncle Adam was wounded in about the first hour of the fighting. A Navy corpsman wrapped up his hand, told him to get back in the battle. The basic rule was that if they could walk and shoot their guns, they had to keep going. They didn't have the luxury of taking them away. The next day was when the flag was put up on Mount Suribachi, and Uncle Adam was wounded for the second time. He was shot by a Japanese sniper. There again, minor wound, they wrapped him up, told him to keep going. He did. 3 weeks later, he was wounded a third time when a Japanese hand grenade went off near him, and he carried 3 pieces of shrapnel in his lower left leg for the rest of his life. They wrapped it up and told him to keep going. The battle took 39 days. Now, this is a very small island. There were 20,000 Japanese troops on it and about 25,000 Marines in the attacking force. At the end of those 39 days, 19,000 Japanese were dead and 9,000 Americans. Now, that isn't a large number compared to some of the other battles in World War II, but this was happening in a very small place. And so the fighting was considered the most intense fighting of all of World War II. At the end of the fighting, the Marines, including Uncle Adam, were put on a troop ship and they went to Okinawa, which had just been taken away from the Japanese in a different battle. On Okinawa, they found out that they were getting ready to train to be in the invading force that was going to attack the main Japanese homeland islands to end the war. Now, the bad news was that the Marines told Uncle Adam's battalion that they were going to be the first battalion to go ashore. And they estimated that 75% of them would be dead within the first day of the fighting, because every man, woman, and child in Japan was probably going to be on the beach with rocks and sticks and everything to fight back. So this was not a happy time for them to do this training, as you can imagine. However, on August 8th, 1945, they were called together, and the general who was commanding them said, "Good news, the Americans had a secret weapon called the atomic bomb. 2 of them had been dropped on the Japanese a few days earlier, and they had surrendered." Adams said most of these battle-hardened Marines literally fell to the ground crying because they knew they were going to live. They would get to go home and have lives and whatnot, which they assumed they were not going to be able to do. And that's what Uncle Adam did. He was discharged from the Marines in San Diego, settled in Los Angeles area. He married my mom's sister, which is what made him my Uncle Adam. And then he got a job with a bank in the Los Angeles area. It turned out that the bank was introducing ATM machines, and he was pretty handy with his hands, and he got in on that on the ground floor and became their manager of all of that. Then his bank was bought by a Japanese bank. And so for the last 5 years of his life, Uncle Adam was an employee of a Japanese bank, Golden Sandwa Bank of California. And he thought that was immensely, not only ironic, but hilarious to be employed by the Japanese. Now here's the point. Uncle Adam didn't talk much about his war experiences. What I've just told you I learned over a several-year period of time. And he was just like most of the people who fought in World War II. They just came home and went on with their lives. They thought that's what they were supposed to do. And that's exactly correct. None of them thought they were special. But they were all part of what Tom Brokaw later called the greatest generation, and deservedly so. Now, today, what can we do to be like them? Well, the military doesn't need or want millions of troops like they had back then. The military has become a highly technological field. They want specialists and professionals to do that. But all of us have a duty to do what we can for the country. Uncle Adam and all the rest of that World War II generation did exactly that. They just did their duty because they thought they were supposed to. You know, and for $86 a month, that's how Uncle Adam did that. But think what you were doing on your 16th birthday compared to what Uncle Adam was doing on that salt craft. I'm not sure our people today have that in them, although maybe we would find out. I'm kind of hoping we don't have a chance to find out, to tell you the truth. And I'm just